We often talk about common surgical procedures like the tibial plateau leveling osteotomy, or TPLO, for addressing cranial cruciate ligament rupture in dogs. But sometimes, dogs present with what's called an excessive tibial plateau angle, or ETPA, which is greater than 34 degrees. The standard TPLO can have drawbacks in these cases, like potential tibial tuberosity fracture, or not fully correcting the angle.
So, veterinary surgeons have developed alternative techniques to handle this excessive angle. This study, titled Morphologic Impact of 4 Surgical Techniques to Correct Excessive Tibial Plateau Angle in Dogs, a theoretical radiographic analysis, takes a closer look at some of these alternatives. The goal was to see how these different procedures impact the shape of the tibia, specifically looking at the tibial plateau angle itself, the length of the tibia, and the mechanical axis shift.
And they compared 4 specific techniques: a combination of center of rotation of angulation-based leveling osteotomy and coplanar cranial closing wedge ostectomy, which we'll call Group A, a combination of tibial plateau leveling osteotomy and cranial closing wedge ostectomy, Group B, the modified cranial closing wedge ostectomy, Group C, and the proximal tibial neutral wedge osteotomy, Group D. Before any correction, the average tibial plateau angle in these dogs was about 42.7 degrees. After the virtual corrections, the average post-correction tibial plateau angles were different for each group. Group A was about 10.5 degrees, Group B was about 6.8 degrees, Group C was about 4.8 degrees, and Group D was about 7.1 degrees. They also looked at the accuracy of the correction compared to the target angle for each technique. Group A and Group D showed the least variation from their specific target angles. Group A, the combination Cora-based leveling osteotomy and coplanar cranial closing wedge, actually slightly overcorrected the angle, while Groups B, C, and D resulted in some degree of undercorrection. The accuracy differed between Group A and Group D.
Now, let's talk about changes in tibia length. This is a really important factor to consider. They found that Group B, the combination TPLO and cranial closing wedge, resulted in shortening of the tibia compared to the other techniques. Groups A, C, and D showed only small positive changes or even slight lengthening. This difference in tibial length change was statistically significant between Group B and each of the other groups.
And finally, the mechanical axis shift. All 4 techniques caused a cranial shift of the mechanical axis after the virtual correction. However, the magnitude of this shift varied significantly between the groups.